Welcome to the Honest Designers Show, your transparent look into life as a modern designer. My name's Tom and I'm the founder at designcuts.com, and as always I'm joined by my lovely co-hosts Ian Barnard, the fellow Brit and hand lettering legend, our American retro design loving friend Dustin Lee, and the always lovely, unless you get on a bad side, South African illustrator Lisa Glantz. In this week's episode, we look at the positive aspects of being a designer. We all absolutely love what we do, but sometimes it's important to actually stop and think about how awesome it is that we all get to create and design for a living. It can be easy to get swept up in some of the negatives to do with clients and other headaches, but really there's a lot to be grateful for. Let's get into the show. So this week we're talking about how being a designer rocks, and this is definitely a follow-on from our much more negative episode about why being a designer sucks. And as predicted, we got quite a few comments on that one with people who seem to definitely resonate with a lot of the points we were dropping. So let's leave the negativity behind us, folks, because this week we're going to focus on the positive and all the aspects that we love about being a designer. And hopefully it won't come true what Dustin said, that this episode ends up being 10 minutes
10
long
minutes.
by comparison.
Do we get red carded if we start going down the negative route?
Yes, you do.
I think this is going to be good for our mental health. I think we're going to realize all the things we really appreciate.
Or
True.
we come up empty and end up like bitter and dejected. All right, Dustin, as you were the chief negative Nancy on the last call, I'm going to put it over to you to kick this one off. Give us a positive.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest positive for me that just pops in my mind immediately is that I'm able to work from home, and I've been able to watch my little girls grow up.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Aw.
That's easily been the best. They can come in and say hi. They literally sit down and say hi to the people I'm working with on things. I can stop in the middle of things in the summer, for instance, right now, and go have a popsicle with them in the backyard instead of being forced to stay at a desk somewhere. So that by far is the biggest benefit.
Can I just, sorry to be negative.
not
already. We just started.
I just think that is more freelance in a general, though, I suppose,
True.
because there's, if you
Why
were
you gotta
like,
be like that?
All right, so Ian, you were just talking about how that's freelancing.
yeah, so I suppose that's more freelancing in general, though, which is still a bonus, still brilliant, because I get to do that as well.
But so many designers have the ability to work from home. I know designers that have in-house jobs and stuff, and it's a job that gives you a little more flexibility because of the nature of the work. So I
Yeah.
think everyone, most people, I would say, experience that to some degree.
Yeah.
They do. I don't know if you guys know Jacob Cass from justcreative.com.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
So he, like, I know him pretty well. He's a partner of ours and stuff, and very nice guy. And him and his wife basically travel the world while they both freelance in their respective careers. So his is obviously design, and their life is just ridiculous. So I think that's two very opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of the freedom it affords you. One is like the lovely family life, which is amazing in its own right. And they're kind of like the young couple who are just seeing the world. They perhaps don't have the family ties yet. And every time I see an update on his Instagram, it's like the most magical, beautiful place I've ever witnessed. And
Wow.
that's like every other week for them. Like they're exploring some new land, and I just think, oh man, like, they've got it sussed. And at the same time, when I hear you, Dustin, and you in talking about your kind of home family life and the balance there, I'm like, well, that's pretty amazing too. So I think just the freedom it affords it's incredible. Like I think it's important to contrast that with like your traditional corporate office job. Like Dustin, I know you used to work at the bank. It's like, imagine if you're there in like your beige suit, like drooped over your corporate desk, trudging home with your briefcase every day to see your daughters for an hour before they go to bed. Like the contrast of that to what you have is just a lot to be grateful for, I think.
Oh yeah, and even if even if you work at an in-house place and you have to go in every day and work, you could do more freelance just by the nature of the job. You can decide to do more freelance. And at a
Exactly.
bank, for instance, when I was a personal banker, it wasn't like once a child was born, I could be like, I think I'm going to be a freelance personal banker. Like, you can't do that.
Yeah.
The banks don't let you do that. So
Yeah.
at least with graphic design, there's the opportunities
Opportunity,
are open
yeah.
to you. You could maybe do any of these things if you try, you know?
Yeah, and it's still in the scale of like human history. It's very, very recent that the internet's been around. It's like even as the baby of the group, when I was growing up, most of this stuff wouldn't be an option in a professional capacity. Let alone what we all do with passive income and stuff, which I presume we'll get into in this episode as well, because that applies to designers. But so number one's the freedom, right? That's the big one.
Mm.
And I would say it's not only freedom of being able to work at home or have these amazing locations, but it's freedom of time. So
Yeah.
if any of us really wanted to, we could, take every Friday off, or we could work through the whole night and sleep during the day. Like you can fit things around your schedule.
Yeah, you can. It's more
Technically.
flexible. Way more flexible. Yeah.
Or take off early for gin in the garden.
Like you had.
That was not early. That was 8 p.m.
Oh, okay. Or take off late after a long day for gin. I guess anyone can do that.
Exactly.
I think should move on to more design-y things, because there's going to be a portion of this kind of they're not freelance and unable to
True.
go freelance, and we need to talk about the positives of design, maybe in general, that doesn't relate to
I love it.
that.
Way to steer the
So-
conversation in. Yeah.
No, I know, just know, because I like,
I
when I
completely
was
agree.
working, I've always wanted to be freelance, and I know that feeling when you can't because you haven't built up. It took me 7 years to become fully freelance, so I know the frustrations of wanting that lifestyle, but just not being able to fully commit to it because of not having enough clients.
So what about, instead of anything to do with freelancing, and not to undermine what any of us do, but we essentially get paid to doodle.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
for me, one of the best things is that your job is so every day it's almost different. Like every project is different, and that's great because you're not doing the same mundane stuff over and over and over. It's like you get opportunities to try different techniques and different projects, and even push yourself like all the time. And also our jobs kind of are the kind of jobs that you can decide how far you want to learn. Like you can either just stay where you are, or you can really push your skill level and learn and grow. And so it's quite exciting from that point of view.
Yeah, there's not a huge ceiling. And
No.
even if you work within an agency, and you're flat out there, it's like you can still go and learn in your own time so much. And I guess that's true of a lot of professions, but I feel like particularly design, there's so many resources available where
Exactly,
you can
yeah.
learn, and so many avenues where you can take it, and you can go into side skills. And say you do work for an agency, you could be hired as the web design guy, but you actually learn lettering on the side in your evening time, and that makes you a more valuable commodity to that company or any client who might want to hire you.
Yeah.
That's neat. Yep.
Yeah, you can definitely, and if you put in the effort, you can shape your career for sure. I mean, it's open to that, which is so amazing, I think.
Too, there's the whole thing about this sounds really like philosophical. I'm not trying to be, but with the Industrial Revolution, jobs got broken up into thinner and thinner parts where people do smaller and smaller roles, and as a result, you don't get to see the result of your work. You're just kind of this person doing a very focused little thing.
Yeah, you're like
And
a
the cool
cog.
thing about being a designer is, yeah, you have an art director, you have people that are going to change your work, and you might be disappointed, but you do overall get to see a result, and you get the satisfaction of seeing it go
Oh,
to
that's
print
true.
or go onto the web, and you're like, I saw something come out and be made, as opposed to being someone making a little part of a cog and never seeing what happens to it.
I mean, it's so true. I remember the first time when I was working in a magazine, the first time I designed a cover and I saw it, all over the place, like in newsstands and stuff. It was such an awesome feeling, because it's like, I'm aware that's what I did,
Do you own it still?
I might, I might.
Yeah, I want to see that actually.
Yeah. It was for a soccer magazine, so don't get too excited.
You mean
I d-
football?
We should do this
sorry,
actually, because
football.
let alone anything we're going to put out publicly.
Yeah.
I really want to compare our early work just within the group, and then we decide if we're willing to release that publicly. But I'm sure if I dug around, I could find some stuff.
Yeah. You know, they
Yeah,
say
we
that
should.
you should always be embarrassed of your old work because it shows that you're growing. I'm
Yes.
embarrassed by the stuff I posted last week.
Yeah, it just goes to show how fast you're growing, Ian.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
kind of sounded like a hidden brag, Ian.
Oh no, didn't mean to go off that way.
I'm jabbing you, buddy. I didn't think it really could sound like that.
So I haven't taken it personally.
It's true.
There. It's okay. So to go back to my getting paid to doodle thing, I kind of want to underline that because
Yeah.
when you talk about the Industrial Revolution and traditional jobs, think of some of the horrendous jobs that people do that are either incredibly stressful or physically demanding or
Yeah.
whatever it might be. And it's like we essentially get paid and support our entire lives being paid to make stuff look prettier.
True.
Yeah.
But it can be really stressful.
It can be stressful, and there are various aspects within that, and
Sorry, do I
it's
get a yellow
definitely
card?
yeah you've been negative. But I mean, there's like a fundamental way to make a living.
Yeah.
We
No,
are
it's
in
amazing.
we're in a way artists. It's like people who are musicians who make a
Mm.
living. Yeah, it's not always easy, but you're truly doing what you love, and you're expressing your art and your creativity.
Exactly. Oh, man.
And I have to stop myself sometimes and almost shake myself awake and be like, do you realize how lucky you are to get to do that? That's not a given.
Yeah, I think that like I have small little glimpses of that, and I'm like, man, I need to remember that more because it really is pretty neat.
That's amazing.
Like I feel like you're onto something when people come into my office or ask me what I do all the time, and they'll look at my office and think it looks cool, or I'll describe what I do, and they'll be like, I don't get how you could possibly make a living doing that. Like everyone says that, and I feel like that's a clue that you're onto doing something good when everyone's like, that sounds like
yeah.
fun thing to do, not money making.
Yes,
Yeah, it sounds
exactly.
like you've monetized a hobby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's different parts of design which people can quantify that can actually make money. So like website design, they can understand that. But like illustration or with me, like lettering, because when I say I sell some fonts and they go, you sell enough fonts to make a living? Or, they just, because they can't see it as a, yeah, if you were making, I know, a load of posters, they know what that looks like. But when
Yeah.
you're doing something that they go, well, you're explaining about, the word, and you can use stuff in there, and they go, so how do they get them? There's just all these, they can't see the process of like what people actually buy. These things are already on the computer.
Well, not only that, but if they ask you how much and you're like, oh, about $20, they'd really be like, okay, you make a little money, do you? Like they, and I feel like we're slipping into negativity.
Yes,
here,
we are.
But it's amazing the potential, but you never want to be the douchebag who kind of says either how much you earn or kind of alludes to it. So, Ian, in your case, if you turned around to someone and said, oh yeah, we sold it for this much, and guess what? When I launched a font with Design Cuts, it sold 1,000 copies in a day. Then they'd be like, whoa, okay,
Ooh.
you got a business on your hands. But you would never say that.
No.
'Cause it's bragging and it's awkward
Feels douchey.
socially.
Yeah.
So I don't really I don't really know how to position it in terms of like, yeah, this is a real thing.
I have a site called Passive Income for Designers where I literally share numbers. So I guess I'm a pretty big douchebag. I
No,
constantly
but that's
share
a
this
different
information.
reason.
There's an article as well, isn't there? That was shared out
Yes.
about your first.
I
your
literally
first
get
year.
paid to go and talk and tell people this.
Yeah, but that's a different reason.
Is that your opening line at a dinner party? Hey, Dustin, here's what I made last year
No,
before tax.
no, I definitely don't do that. But
I bet your tax man. I bet the whatever it is, the IRS in the US
Yes.
has read that article.
Well, I'm very honest on my taxes. If there's any tax people listening, so there's no need to audit me. I'm honest about all that.
Just putting it out there.
You're an honest
But you know, like,
designer.
I think there's a difference though, because like I only say it as a way to inspire other designers. You know, like it's not because you're trying to be like I'm better than you. You're more like trying to say, hey guys, like in case you didn't notice, there's some opportunities here, and most people won't tell you. They put a curtain in front of it.
Yeah.
It's like when I go around telling strangers how good looking I am. It's just from an inspirational perspective.
Exactly. That's why we need to have a video of this thing. For anyone who doesn't know, Tom is an insanely handsome man.
We have to turn him off our screen because we just can't concentrate when he's on.
It's true. Lisa has to put a curtain over her screen, or else she would just be.
All right, let's get back to the positives because
I'd say that's positive. I'd say that's positive.
I don't want to descend to one of those podcasts
No.
that is all banter and no substance, and the listeners always compliment us on our focus. So, in terms of the positive aspects of being a designer, Lisa, over to you.
Yeah,
have you got?
what I often think about, maybe this is gonna make me sound weird, but designers are like we're like little elves that people don't that people don't know are like working hard in the background, you know, because I mean if you think about it, if you walk into a shop like I guess you guys have like Marks and Spencer and I don't know, you know, shops like that.
Target.
Yeah, and you have like a decor section and a food section, you know, all these different sections. The amount of designers behind the products, from the surface pattern designs on the duvets to the packaging to the fonts that the designer used to kind of make, you know, this look good and the post. I mean, we literally like making that whole entire department store look amazing. We're like little
But I have a
elves.
question. Similar to photographers, do you like being the one behind the scenes? Because I think that's quite a common trait in designers. It's not like we want to be, you know, in the front of all this stuff, being
No.
like, I made this, give me the credit. It's kind of cool being that little invisible force
Exactly.
behind it.
Yeah,
Where
and
you can
it's
just
so-
watch people react. And
Exactly, and then people walk around; they don't have a clue that you know that what went into to make this whole thing look so good. And I think it's quite cool. We're like little elves,
it's cool.
Little bunnies.
or bunnies.
A positive thing I'd like to put on is that we can geek out on over technology because we can actually use it in our day-to-day
Oh,
job.
that's true.
So,
that's true.
So, for instance, like the iPad and the Apple Pencil is perfect for designers because of what it can do with all the apps you've got there and how good the pencil is. So, like unless you've got a lot of money to spend, I can't see why you'd spend as much on the iPad Pro over a normal iPad.
Yeah.
And so people see it and they go, wow, what's that? And you go, wow, yeah, I do some drawing on it.
It's true. I have like a really, you know, I have the biggest. I'm not trying to brag here.
Yeah.
I have the biggest.
Right, can you finish that
the
sentence,
biggest-
please, buddy?
I have the biggest iMac and I have the iPad, and I'm not saying this to brag. My gosh, it sounds so much like bragging, but I'm just trying to reinforce Ian's point that there's a very legitimate reason to have it, and you're like, yay, I can buy it because
Yeah.
it really does help with something.
Exactly.
I want to say Dustin, obviously, you know, with his surplus money, but I bought mine because I knew that I could get my money back from it
Yeah,
from
you could
creating.
justify
Like I got my money back from creating Procreate brushes and selling those. So
That's cool.
because there's obviously you can just spend money on technology aimlessly, or you can spend on it, you know, as an investment. So I saw it as that way.
Yeah. Well, I had the exact same thing with the camera. I went in. One of the first things I bought when I really got into design was a nice camera. It's, you know, more than I would spend if I was just using it to take pictures for family. And it paid for itself in like 2 months of taking photos. And you're like, man, it's so cool. I get to have a cool camera, and it actually pays for itself because of the work I do.
Exactly. Oh, it's awesome.
I've got one. I love how useful it is. It's one of those professions that is useful outside of your job. And I'd put it number 4. So to give you an example, number 1 might be something like a doctor. So if you're a doctor, you work as a doctor, but anytime you or your family have ailments, you can actually like hands-on help with that and not panic and kind of use your skills in daily life. Same thing for a lawyer. It's like you save so much money by not needing to hire a lawyer anytime
put
you
the
get
lawyer
into a jam or something like that. Okay, maybe lawyer first. Number 3 might be something like a builder, like Ian's best friend in the world.
We should get him on the show.
We'll definitely get him on the show. Something like that, because you anytime you need renovations, you save so much money in your house, and you can handle that, and you really know what you're doing. And if number 4 is designer, I've found so many times where I thought, man, if I didn't have this skill set, it
you
would
have to pay.
suck to have to hire someone and not really know if they were any good and wait around for them to get back and wait on revisions. And it lets you move so quickly, especially for someone like me and I guess all of us who are not only designers, but we're in online business.
Right.
So it's like anytime we need, we can just whip up a social media graphic, or
True.
we can make anything look really cool and great, whether it's like a cover for a YouTube video or a flyer or a business card or
Yeah.
a poster. And I know so many people, everyone from like personal trainers to bankers or whoever, and anytime they try and do anything off their own back, it either looks terrible and unprofessional, or they don't have the money or time to like go and hire a designer.
Yeah.
So they're just kind of stuck in a rut. But for us, it's like all the kind of marketing materials and look of anything, like we're just used to being able to do that, but that's not normal for 99.9% of the population. They're just stuck with that stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah, I that's funny because I think about that all the time. There's so many times you see a business and you're like, I remember before I was a designer, I'd be like, oh, that'd be so hard. You'd have to like pay a designer, and who knows how all this stuff works to get it just looking like a business. And that when you know that stuff, you're like, oh, in a weekend, I could probably get a pretty decent little link popped up if I really wanted to.
Yeah.
Yeah, and save myself $5,000 in the process and a bunch of time.
Like if me and Lisa decide we wanted to start selling jam, like at a farmer's market, like by the end of a weekend, we'd have a killer jam brand.
That's true.
So it also has to taste nice as well.
That's secondary. That's secondary. Placebo effect of the
You see, that's
packaging.
why I would put chef first.
What about mechanic? I'd put mechanic quite high up.
Oh, goodness.
But yeah, like you know what I mean? It falls into that group of professions where it is truly useful. There's tons of jobs where once you clock off, it's like you would have no purpose for that in your general life.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's quite a big one for me, and it always has been, because it's just allowed me to do so much in business and other stuff.
Can I say something in relation to that? Something you might not know. I'm actually a qualified electrician.
Really?
Serious?
Yeah, I am.
You sound like you're joking there. Are you really?
I know I am. Seriously, I went off to about 10 years ago. I really wanted to. My granddad was an electrician for like whole his life. When people used to do jobs when they left school, and then
Yeah.
that's it until they retire. And he was an electrician. I was always quite fascinated by it, and I could literally not. And it's a bit like my calligraphy journey, really. So I couldn't even change a plug. You know, when you have to, it breaks and you just literally need to change over the wires. I didn't have a clue. So I went to night school for a couple of years, and I got qualified as an electrician, just a domestic one. And
Wow.
I was going to do like a few jobs like per month just to get off the computer, really. But they released this law where you have to be part of a governing body, pay a load of money each year, and get loads of equipment. And I was like, oh, so maybe not. But I did a few things around my house when I could do. But I was thinking that how an electrician, if you do it wrong, you can kill someone.
Right.
You can't with
True.
graphic design.
I wondered where you were going with that, but
In that way, it's definitely not like calligraphy. If you mess up your calligraphy, like you just get a new sheet of paper. If you mess up on the electrician part, you die.
That's
the end
the
of
thing.
that is actually a really good point. And just before I respond, let me say you just got like 300% more manly in my eyes with that backstory. 'Cause that is something that I am terrible at. So you have my full admiration.
Oh, that's
I
so
still try
sweet.
to think how I could implement it into my into my social media posts. It's-
Dudley. You
No, I'm sure
definitely
you-
should.
Yeah, you should. We will discuss after. I've got a couple of ideas. There.
I think it's
But yeah, that like we just mentioned doctors before. We had the negative episode and we've had our kind of group therapy sessions here, and we will get seriously stressed and down and worried about like a client deadline, or oh no, the client didn't like it. It's like, really, there's doctors who have to deal with people dying on them
Yeah,
every
horrendous.
day, and it kind of puts it in perspective. As a designer, it's pretty low pressure
And
compared
risk, low
to
risk
a
as well.
lot of job and risk.
Yeah.
And yes, it's easy for us to all moan about it, but you're going to get some degree of stress in every job. And I think we've probably got it pretty light compared to most, especially if you're not a freelancer and it's not like, oh, I can't eat this month. If it's more like my creative director didn't like this draft as much, it's like, okay, fine. You can do another one.
Yeah. True.
You also get to like inspire the culture of your clients or give them fuel for the creativity of their business. I feel like when a client gets a great logo or branding or packaging for their product, it puts a whole new confidence and a whole new excitement behind their entire business for them.
Definitely.
It has meaning what you do. It has meaning and impact if you
Yeah.
do it right.
Yeah.
And that is great. You can't put a price on that. And I totally agree. I've loved seeing that, especially when I work with small businesses. That's always the most rewarding, I find. And you just see them go out and get all these compliments, and it helps their business. And yeah, it's the best thing in the world, right?
Oh, yeah. Sure.
And it's amazing how design transforms stuff. I mean, just by looking at it, you can make an assessment what kind of company it is, and that's because of the design. So it's quite amazing what a job it does.
And it kind of fits in that whole placebo thing, right? That I mentioned a little bit earlier, where you design the packaging for some, I don't know, homemade Rice Krispie treats, and the packaging might literally make you be able to charge more for it, and it tastes more delicious.
Yeah.
Just because you put the Rice
It
Krispie treat bunnies on
exactly.
it that you designed, you know?
And in that sense, it's like we're magicians almost. And I know that sounds lame, but I like...
It is
I
like little elves.
I like the weird power that carries, I guess, because
I know.
people who don't know design don't really understand that stuff or the impact of it.
Exactly.
But when we're
Yeah.
there, like the invisible puppet masters behind this stuff, it's like you have no idea. We're tricking everyone's psychology with this.
It's so true. Like, perfect example. Like, how many of you as kids poured your cereal and then you'd sit the cereal box down in front of you and look at it, or look at the back of it as you ate? Like, it really made an impact on me as a kid. I remember looking at the back of a Lucky Charms box or something like that. Or
Yeah. I think I'm really disappointed if the back of the box is the same as the front of the box. Do you know
Oh,
what I mean?
yeah.
It's just a
Yeah.
duplicate of the car. I was like, oh, this is rubbish.
Bad design.
yeah, that's not good.
It's terrible.
There's no maze to follow or word
Yeah,
search.
exactly.
Right.
Oh, that's so true.
What would kids do?
Yeah, I
What would
know.
parents do? They'd never get any quiet time if there wasn't something on the back of the box of cereal. It's a big difference.
So how about as a big positive, just loving what you do? Because I think that's worth touching on, because most people, I think there is a stat like 80% of people not even dislike, like hate their jobs.
Yeah.
And I know certainly most people I meet in day-to-day life, and this includes very good friends and so on, the best I tend to get is apathy,
Yeah.
where they're like, it's okay at the minute, like it pays the bills, it's not completely terrible.
And a lot of times that's almost a brag. Like, a lot of times people
yeah,
say that almost
exactly.
with pride.
Yeah, like my work's actually palatable right now. It's
Yeah.
terrible. And for us, like we love it. Like we genuinely love it. Like we're on a show right now talking about it because we love it so much we can't shut up about it. And that's insane to me.
Yeah, it is.
That's amazing.
And it is a privilege because, as you said, most people, just don't know that feeling. They don't.
Yeah.
I mean, when I try and explain it to some of my friends, they don't understand it. They don't understand how I can get so excited about my job. And I guess
But I bet they're jealous in a nice way.
yeah, in a nice way. And I really feel terrible that people never really experienced that. It's horrible.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I could translate that into everyone feeling that, but you can't, I guess.
The world would be a better place.
Yeah,
Being
exactly.
somebody that worked a lot of normal jobs, like I worked at restaurants and worked at banks, I would have that Sunday evening dread
Oh, yes.
that happened as you knew Monday was coming.
Yeah.
And I think I can speak for all of us, I think, and for probably a lot of designers listening, in the fact that I haven't felt any even tinge of dread in years about the day. Every day is essentially the same, in the sense of I don't dread a day coming up unless like I have to get like go to the dentist or something.
Shame. Oh, shame, Dustin. Yeah, but it's true. It's so true. I used to dread it. I mean, even when I was an adult and working, normal jobs, whatever, I used to still call it the day before school, to this day, because it was so horrible.
It's a horrible feeling. It
is
good
a
to,
horrible feeling.
Even if you have it a little bit as a designer, but it's it's not as bad as working at a lot of other jobs.
Yeah.
Even if you do have it and you're a little bit at your design job.
That dread.
I think it only came when there was just so much work to do, and you're just like, oh, Monday morning's coming, and I know there's a lot on my plate, and a short amount of time. And actually, that's what pushed me out of doing employed work. Was just was that amount of work that I couldn't control under my own steam.
You weren't allowed to procrastinate to the level you do now.
Yeah, I know.
It's funny, yeah, that is actually. I'm a little bit the same.
Okay, so what other positives are floating around?
You can an excuse to buy a lot of design books.
Yeah.
I have a massive library. It's
And pens.
This is for work.
Yeah.
And this is like books coming in all the time.
You're so right. Because I've got a stationery addiction.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah,
before I
you
used
do.
to feel guilty because I literally had piles and piles and piles of stuff I just never used, but now I actually use it. And every time I go into the shop and buy another cute set of pencils, it's all because of my job.
Can a
That's
pencil
I
be
do that
cute?
all the time.
Oh yes, can a pencil be cute? What kind of questions are
There you go. That's your cover for this one.
Oh!
Just I'm
I
picturing
don't
a
need to
pencil
start
with like,
paying you in.
with like big eyes and like rosy cheeks. Just like a pencil.
Oh, my
It's
word.
true. I do that with books all the time. I'll go and buy some books and I'll be like, hey, it's my job. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I have to do this. It's unfortunate, but for my job, I will need to buy these books.
I know, and the taxman
It's
allows
imperative.
you too. It's wonderful.
I got one more leading on from the negative episode. So I know we had a bit of a moan about people don't understand us and all that kind of thing. Little emo kids, the four of us. No one gets me. But I weirdly like that. I like being
Weird.
like weird and niche.
You do a great job.
and thanks, mate.
I'm glad you like it because you're doing well.
Walked into that one. I like doing something for a living that is a bit different. I like not being like blah
Me
and
too, me too.
mundane and grey. I like having a bit of a quirky job
Yeah.
that no one else really does or gets.
Oh, good point. Yeah.
And ultimately, I don't really care that people don't always understand it. I'd much rather that than just be like, oh yes, I don't actually want to say a specific profession here unless I
'Cause you
offend
might get
someone
death
listening.
threats.
But if I'm like, oh yeah, like I do this mundane job, and everyone's like, oh yeah, I instantly get what you mean, but that's the least exciting thing I've ever heard. I'd rather people are like, oh, okay, I don't really get that, but it sounds cool.
Yeah. I like it
Yeah.
too. It's fun. And then you can play around with them too. You can make stuff up they wouldn't know.
Yeah, Ian can just tell them about these fonts that jump off the screen with new technology that they're not aware of.
Another really neat thing is you get to do personal projects. Think about how many jobs you can't do personal projects. As a designer, like all of you were saying, you can decide I'm going to do hand lettering, or I'm going to learn to draw, or I'm going to make paint on violins. Whatever your thing is you're going to do, you can go do that as a personal project. Think about how many jobs you can't be like, I have a personal project. Like, if you work in a grocery store, which I think it could be a very fulfilling job, but the point is that you couldn't be like, I have a personal project and it's that I'm making like...
I'm going to go home and arrange my fruit bowl.
Yeah, nothing wrong with the job, but you can't really do a personal project related to that.
To that job, yeah.
I feel bad that I want to be clear, I'm not dissing on grocery jobs because I think they're pretty neat. Actually. I'm just saying you can't do the personal projects with it.
Well, you can't integrate it. Often you can't integrate your personal projects into your job, whereas we can. You know, as Ian ended up making a living out of his personal projects. You know,
Let me put it in a slightly different way. We get the privilege of blurring the lines between work
Yeah.
and fun.
yeah.
Yes. Edit out what I just said and just put that. Seriously, dude.
I like that.
That was exactly what I meant in like way
Yeah,
less words.
But I understood that you meant that.
I didn't.
Yeah.
That's so true. We do get to play, basically.
Can I just say that the grocery person you were talking about supplied me with my calligraphy supplies for my most popular posts. So
they went into someone's personal project at least.
yeah,
That's true.
see, I'm a supporter of the local grocery sellers.
Yeah.
So I know we sidestepped away from it, but jumping back to freelancing, which I know isn't just design, but you know, I do think a lot of the listeners are freelance designers.
Mm.
And one of the coolest things about that, we ragged on the negatives of, you know, the unstable income coming in each month, etc., etc. But the tremendous upside there is that you don't have the same ceiling as you might in a traditional job. So,
true.
yeah, you might struggle. It might be harder at the start. It might be a bit uncertain at times, but there is the potential to earn 5, 10, 20, 100 times more feasibly than you ever could.
Well, I mean, that's a great job of freelance, because that used to bug me, you know, being paid a salary when you know you're putting in so much extra graft for that month or that project, and your salary is the same, you know, whereas if it was freelance, you just know the more work you put in, the more you get out. So, yeah, it's great.
Things I don't miss about being employed. One of the major things. This is more on a positive because it's like I don't do it anymore. Is appraisals, having to
Yeah.
go through what you think you've done well, what you think you need to improve on.
Gosh, did you have that? That's
Oh,
awesome.
Well, I'm sure
Don't-
Tom has to do that.
Yeah,
though, don't you?
yeah, I do. I'm doing them next week before we go too far down that rabbit hole.
Oh, that's horrible.
It's not something.
No, but it's I know what you mean, and I think about this stuff all the time because I think it is so horrendous how most people run their companies, or not even run a company, but just general managers.
Mm.
There's so much bad management going on, and so I know tons of people, including our team, where they're actually happily employed, and that's great. But I also know a lot of them have come from backgrounds where they were treated quite badly, perhaps, or their manager might have been an idiot, or things were done the wrong way. Like for me, if you sit in an appraisal and it's like, oh, by the way, let's fix that to make your life easier, and by the way, you're doing an amazing job, that's quite nice. But
Oh,
if
yeah.
it's someone on a power trip, it completely sucks.
I think it'd be fair to say if you're going to listen to this episode, you really should listen to the negative episode we did where we complained in the balance, because having a job has its benefits too, right? Like, not to get really negative, but like in the last one, we talked about how it's very hard to leave and walk away from your doing. You carry it and live with it when you're a freelancer or work for yourself. So, I mean, working for somebody else, there's huge benefits. You get to enjoy the work you do in many jobs, and then you can go home and not have to think about it at all.
And when you go on
get the
holiday, you really are on
security
holiday.
and-
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's swings and roundabouts, basically. There's positives to both sides, but definitely being a designer, freelancer or otherwise, you can always find the positives. And it's about finding what is the right match for you as a character.
Yeah.
So, you know, all of us, we might moan about it occasionally, but we wouldn't do it if we truly hated it. We clearly like being up, like working on a project and not being able to stop, even if we're a bit sleep deprived. Otherwise, we just flat out wouldn't do it. If
Yeah.
we really didn't enjoy that, we'd stop.
Oh,
True.
yeah. Even on the worst day, I'm not like, maybe I should go apply to work at the bank again. Like, even enter my mind.
Not. Yeah, exactly.
Also, another positive is that you get paid to show off, really, because what you're doing is like, look how good my skills are.
You see,
That's a
there's another
perfect
little
ending
gloat
subject.
there.
That's not even a humble brag. That's just a braggadocious
Yeah,
brag.
but like someone commented on one of my posts and just saying,
I'm glad
"Oh,
it wasn't me.
look, you're showing off," and I'm like, but I have to show off if I want to get any work.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, it's not like I can suck all day and get work.
Yeah, no,
No one wants to see that.
I'm writing rubbish because I don't want to. I don't want to show
Oh
off.
my
but
goodness.
I have to
That's
show
true.
because you're saying like, look at my work, how good it is. You want to employ me,
Yeah.
so it's a.
That's hilarious. Like, picture you doing this really cool calligraphy on Instagram, and then someone's like, you little fancy pants show off. You're like, what do you want from me?
You should have just responded with the
You
emoji
can't
with the
win.
the head wearing the sunglasses,
What?
like the head wearing the sunglasses. That little emoji, just
Oh,
too
yeah.
cool for school.
Exactly.
Like, you know, on some websites, and I'm sure people out there that
Justin's got the giggle.
That little emoji bastard. He is that guy. Not Ian. I
That's
just mean
Ian.
like that guy is the ultimate show off guy that you just want to punch in the face. Who invented that? We should look up who invented that sunglass guy. Anyway,
Ian.
I digress.
It was Ian, I think.
no, because like some people have on their websites, they have like a graph of like Photoshop skills or Illustrator skills, and it's like has a percentage line.
Oh,
yeah.
can I just say to any designer, please don't do that on your CV. It's so terrible. It's just say that you're proficient in these skills or you
Yeah.
have these skills. It's where they're like, I'm 5 out of 10 at HTML and I'm 7 out of 10 on Photoshop. It's like
it's
so
the
you've
most
just shown me your
biased, inaccurate
shortcomings.
metric ever.
Yeah, it's like so you're grading yourself, which is never going to be accurate, and you're still giving yourself a crap mark. And
Yeah, it's true. I don't understand why. I mean, I would just be saying 100%, 100%, 100%.
Exactly.
Why
Yeah.
would you say 60? I mean,
Or every time you submit a resume, you just adjust the percentages for them when they go to the site.
I've interviewed someone where they're like, I'm 10 out of 10 on the bars and that little infographic on Photoshop. And that basically means in their old job, they knew how to open a document and edit some text. And it's like,
Yes.
great.
Oh my goodness. Oh, that's good.
All right, shall we
Well,
end
that's the whole thing of you don't know
with-
what you don't know. Like,
Yeah.
different subject.
philosophical. I design, therefore I am. Shall we end on like a, I don't know, maybe
positive?
something out of left field? Yeah.
I feel like we should have ended on Ian's thing where he said you get paid to show off. End of show.
And then just drop the mic.
And then just picture of sunglasses emoji.
Have we all got like a quick fire, but slightly out of left field positive? So we covered a lot of the main ones, freedom and stuff like that.
Oh, I
but-
got one.
Oh.
Yeah, go on. Give us a weird positive. to
You
post.
can eat as many cookies as you want because no one's around you to
to judge you. Oh, I love it. Good, Dustin. You got a weird one?
Yeah. I was going to say something similar, but I'm sensitive to the full freelance versus graphic design thing. But if I want to, I can. Will look like total rubbish when I come in here. Sometimes I come in the morning with my hair sticking up everywhere and like my coffee and like I haven't taken a shower in like 72 hours and I'm like, no one knows what's going on.
I like that.
Guess you can do that in any job. I know. maybe you can.
I'll extend on that. Again, this is slightly freelancery, but working in pajamas. I know it's a cliche. It's become almost like a meme, but we've
But
all
as a
done
graphic
it.
designer, it actually almost shows you're more creative if you're like a little bit scroungy. So even if you do work at a place and you come in kind of dirty, it's like he's the designer. It's all good.
Well, it does. But I've had to get a bit more dressed up for a video Skype interview with a potential client who was one of my more high profile ones, and I put on a formal shirt and still had pajamas on the bottom half, but they couldn't see because it was underneath the desk. So I'm there with my slippers and pajamas on with like a dress shirt on the top half. All right, Ian, how about you? Have you got a closing positive for the listeners?
I like taking pride in the fact that my job is to wow people, or just it's just enjoyment that you're trying to make people think, "Wow, I really want that," or "Oh, I love how that looks," and the pride you get in being able to create something that people see is whether that's beautiful or just nice to look at, I suppose.
I totally agree, and that counters, I think it was Dustin said in the negative episode, how it feels like your soul's being crushed when someone hates your work.
Exactly.
And I think the point is our egos are tied to our work, but it works the other way around too. So when someone loves your work, it's the greatest feeling in the world, right?
Yeah.
Thing is, I actually something I posted today and said in my talk was that both my head and my heart go into my work, and I can't detach my emotions from what I do. So if someone loves it, I'm like over the moon. If someone doesn't like it, I'm a long way under the moon. So you're. I think because you need to put your passion into it and that your heart and soul into it, just because that produces amazing work, but also everyone has an opinion on what is good and what is not good, and that can reflect on your. You can feel the way you respond to that can hurt you, but that's just part of the job. And it's normally more there's a lot more positives than negatives, people responding the bad way. And there's always going to be people who don't like your work just because of how people look at things.
Sure, but as you say, it's overwhelmingly positive. I know we have a tendency to fixate on the one or two negatives, but just to end this episode on a positive note, I do think, most people are inherently nice. They're inherently supportive. They inherently do trust that, we are the expert. And yes, we can all moan about the rare nagging clients and so on, but generally it's pretty amazing to do what we do and send it across to people and impress them and get nice feedback back. Can't really ask for more than that.
Yep.
I wouldn't trade this work for a year's worth of free pizzas.
What?
Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode. We hope that it helped you to think about some of the amazing aspects of being a designer and helped cheer you up midweek. As always, you can find full show notes over at honestdesigners.com or find us over on iTunes by searching for The Honest Designers Show. As always, it would mean so much to all four of us if you took just a moment to leave us a review over on iTunes, as this is one of the best ways for your fellow designers to discover the show. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you right here next week on The Honest Designers Show.